Thanks for listening to our podcast, Living Life with the Rogers. My name is Cameron.
And I'm Kira, and this is a lifestyle podcast where we talk about #all the things. Listen in.
Hello, listeners. Today we are talking about money. So this should be
money.
So this should be a fun one. You can tell Kira's very passionate about the...
Oh, I love spending money.
So we should just talk about you spending money and me saving money, correct?
That's pretty much our relationship in a nutshell.
So if you need advice on how to spend the money, Kira will be your point of contact. If you need a little advice on how to save money ruthlessly, then I'm your guy.
For sure. All right, tell me about your background with money, growing up, how money was treated in your family.
So, great question. Not like we had this planned. But, so growing up, we didn't have a ton of money. And for us, anything that we received, whether it was a gift, items that we got for birthday, such as presents, those kind of things we treasured. So we were a little late to, let's say if the rest of the world was getting the PlayStation, we were still getting the previous version of it just because we weren't up to date on the latest technology, the latest trends, all that kind of stuff. But when we did get something, we cherished it. We learned how to take care of it. It was kind of like a treasured prize. My dad had to work, at one point he was working 2 jobs, but he was constantly working, but also when he got home, spent time with us. And so hard work was something we were used to. We saw it a lot in him. And then when he got home, he would work on the cars, he would build things, fix things around the house. So for us, spending money wasn't really common. We didn't go out to eat much. We ate at home a lot. And so for us, saving money was kind of a big deal. So, yeah, you give a little background, Kira, as to how you guys dealt with money.
Yeah, so when my parents first got married, they didn't have a lot of money. But then as I grew older, maybe like elementary school, I guess I would say, right around when my brother was born, my dad started to advance in his career because my mom she worked like part-time throughout my life. She's always had like some kind of side gig, I guess you could say. Like I went to daycare when I was little and she was working full-time. And then when I got into elementary school, she was teaching skating. So that was like part-time. Then she taught at the community college. So she's always kind of like helped out with the money. But my dad was always the main provider. And so as he advanced in his career, he advanced to a really high position. So he made excellent money in my middle school, high school years. So we, lived in a very wealthy area, had a lot of money, didn't really have to question what we spent. If I wanted something, I got it. A little bit spoiled, I will say. And yeah, it was kind of like, you want it? You get what's the song by Lizzo? I want it. No, that's not the song.
Whatever. I'm thinking of something.
You would go old school. I was actually trying to think of like a new trendy song.
Oh yeah, I'm old school. Well, you bring up interesting points. So when we started dating, I grew up on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and in a little small home. It was modest, 1 level, no basement, and shared a room with my twin brother. And so actually my parents still live in that my same childhood home. And then I went to meet your mom, I believe, and I went to your home, and wow, what a difference. So we definitely come from different backgrounds.
Yeah, and your mom's primary focus was raising you boys, homeschooling you boys. So she was your typical homemaker. So, you always had a single parent income, whereas like I said, my mom she's always helped out with money, so we technically had a dual parent income. We always lived in like the nicest neighborhoods, and if I wanted a Coach purse, it was like, here you go. Like there wasn't a lot of brand name things. Whatever I wanted. And that was kind of like how my dad showed me that he loved me. He would like to buy me things and spoil me. And spend money on me and all of that good stuff. So yeah, so then when we met, we were coming from two completely different places. Like I rolled up in my new Volkswagen Jetta that my dad had bought me outright for my 16th birthday.
Oh, yeah, what did I had? I think I had an old Ford Taurus, which it was for the car people out there. It was an SHO, so it was nicer, but it was older, and I've done some work to it, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, so I had my brand new 2017 Volkswagen Jetta. I was shopping at like Anthropologie. Like I'm not gonna say like, okay, we weren't the rich of the richest, but like it was a very comfortable, bougie lifestyle, I would say.
So as you can imagine, us dating and getting to know each other went super smooth when it came to money, right?
Yeah, so there was definitely an adjustment period when I met Cam because our first date was at Wendy's, and I was like, well, this is interesting. Wendy's was like what we did when like 6-year-old Bubba was like begging for fast food, and everyone was like, fine, we'll go to Wendy's, like whatever.
Well, remember, Wendy's was the Chick-fil-A of today, right? They were the jam. So to my defense, I mean, Wendy's was top notch at that time when we were dating.
Yeah, it was a little bit of an adjustment. I would say I had to kind of like calm down to reality. And I always like wanted to work. So I got my first job, I think when I want to say like 16. Like I felt like I wanted to have like my freedom to spend my money. I always felt like I was kind of like mooching off my parents a little bit, which wasn't the best feeling. Like I think there's a good feeling that comes from working hard and earning something and being paid for what you worked for. And so I always felt like kind of like a moocher. So I had that desire to work, but I was very naive to like, oh, you have to work this amount to make this amount of money. Like that didn't add up in my brain. Like I worked at Cold Stone for my first job, and one paycheck, I was like, oh, this isn't going to buy me much. So that was kind of like a little bit of a culture shock of how expensive it is to live your life.
And hey, sorry to break it to you. It's not getting any better.
No. And then when I got my skating job, that was actually really good money. So that was like, okay, like maybe I should, think outside of the box when it comes to like careers. So that was good. But like you tell your story with like your first job.
Yeah, so I started working when I was 14, and so, yeah, my parents obviously took care of everything we needed, but if there's something we wanted, like I was big in playing the guitar, so if I wanted to buy a guitar, I had to save money for it. I had to save money for my first car, which was a 1991 Ford Taurus. So that was a pretty awesome vehicle. It was like velvet seats. It was slick. It was great. And so I started when I was 14 working at Sears, which, again, I'm going to lose the audience. They're like, Wendy's and Sears, what are these places? Yeah, I'm aging myself. But I worked actually doing deliveries. I basically delivered refrigerators, washers, dryers, all that fun stuff. So pretty much since 14, I learned if I wanted to buy something, I had to earn it, and have been working kind of ever since.
Yeah, so our whole dating and even like early marriage years were spent like adjusting to one another. So like Cameron came from the super, you have to save a lot, you have to work and providing is your main priority as a man. So you need to have a healthy savings, you need to provide for your family, you need to work hard, work a lot. So he was coming from that side, and I was coming from the side of like money grows on trees, buy whatever you want. Like
which if anybody has that tree, I'm pretty good on the garden. I will grow it.
Right, so. And my parents had gotten to a point where they were working hard, but they had like kind of lax jobs, and it was a really good hourly rate. I want to say, I'm never going to say they didn't work hard, but it was like money just came, right? And so we had a lot of like adjusting. So like Cameron, I had to be like, homeboy, your shoes are 6 years old. It's okay if you want to buy a $40 pair of Nikes. And he had to be like, hey, hun, you know that $150 scarf you just bought at Anthropologie? Yeah, you could actually go to Target and get one for $20 instead, and that would probably be a better use of our money. So it was a lot of adjusting to one another and compromising and meeting in the middle and understanding that the far right and the far left weren't necessarily the right or the most beneficial ways for us to use and spend our money, but like we could come in the middle and kind of learn from each side.
Yeah, it's like that Zed song, why don't you just meet me in the middle?
Exactly.
That'll be the last time I ever sing on this podcast.
Yeah, so and when we first got married, I got a job as a teacher, like base pay, and Cameron was early in his career, like not doing fine, but not making like we just didn't have a ton of extra income because we were paying off student loans. We had bought a condo, so we had a mortgage, we had BG&E, all that stuff. We were really jumped right into the adult world, so we had a pretty strict budget. I remember
I was very big on the budgeting.
Oh, we had the paper and you had to write everything down.
These were the good days.
Oh gosh, it was a lot. It was a little bit of a culture shock.
If I remember right, it was me implementing it. Yeah, that was like, again, I'm going to date myself again. I had my Excel sheet and I was like, all right, we got to track our spending, track how much we're saving each month. And if I remember right, your eyes are rolling in the back of your head, and I think you were zoning out most of these conversations.
Yes. But I wanted to be respectful, and I understood that my view on money wasn't a healthy or realistic view, especially for our lifestyle. We were, again, my parents started, and they did not have a lot of money to start. So they had been where we had been, and I just didn't know that life. So I had to kind of like come down to reality and learn like this is how much it costs to just live, especially when you're only making this amount of money. But I remember like one time you were like, we cannot afford heat this month, or we were like at the top of our budget. And so I was eating my cereal in my like North Face winter jacket that my parents had bought with gloves on and like cereal for dinner. Like we were really strict about the budget when we first got married, but mostly because we were just trying to live within our means and we had debt that we were paying off.
Wendy's wasn't cheap, right?
I mean,
I lost
no comment.
Because to me, coming from that opposite perspective, I always had these fears of, I won't be able to afford the mortgage, and my brain always goes to the worst extreme. I won't be able to afford the mortgage, and then all of a sudden we're going to be walking the streets, and in the worst case scenario, so in a way, I coveted whatever money I had, and I held on to it a little too much, and it became that mountain for me that just would never go away.
Yeah, for sure. And then as we, grew in our marriage, you started making more money in corporate world. My business was growing. We were a little bit more comfortable. We like ditched the paper budget. But
I think I need to do that for my mental health a little bit. We kept looking at the Excel sheet. We had, and like a lot of people can relate to this. We had good months. We had bad months. I mean, it was a little bit of everything, and I was becoming obsessed with it, and it was draining me. And I had no fun in life. I had no enjoy. I mean, I worked hard. I made decent money at that time, and there was no joy in it. It was always, I could do better. It was always the pursuit of more.
And you were obsessed with our savings, which,
it's terrible.
And again, like, I think, so kind of moving into now, like, our perspective of money, we try and just land right in the middle. Like, I think it's smart to have 3 to 6 months worth of savings, to be able to cover your bills if someone is injured and, you lose your job, slow months. I think that's wise, like, so that you can protect your family and provide for your family. But then we try not to covet money too much. We place a lot of value in experiences and doing things with our kids because we've unfortunately experienced a lot of loss in our life, and we understand the fragility of life. And so we always say we never want to look back and wish that we had taken this trip or done this with our kids. So I think that kind of affects how we spend our money. Like, we will spend money on trips and experiences because we like to make memories as a family.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. So what shifted for us, and especially for me, is making a goal, a marriage goal on what to do with money. So when I got married, I was so stringent on saving, and I was too obsessed with it. When we finally sat down and we went, what do we prioritize with our money? What's our goal with our money? And so obviously the first was, okay, I want to have a rainy day fund. Or what if something breaks in the condo? At that time we were in the condo. What if something breaks? I want to make sure we have the money to fix it. With that being said, we finally put together goals. And one of those goals was we want to be able to travel and have great experiences. And that allowed me to start shifting to a healthier perspective to what am I working towards, and trying to let that Excel sheet go a little bit and relax a little bit and just enjoy those trips. And don't, and here's the crazy part. I remember one of our trips, actually, I brought a list with me so we can track our spending on the trip. And so that's, again, I had to get away from that kind of thinking and just relax and go, okay, we're going to use common sense and let's just enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, now we kind of say like ballers on a budget, right? So like we're still, again, we're just trying to be in the middle. We, we do Disney every year, and so people are like, oh, but we do it on a budget. We do it for like $3,000. And the reason we're able to do that is because instead of my mom buying us birthday presents this year, again, like stuff that we don't really need, she treats us to our Disney tickets. And then we stay off property. So we find a place that's still very nice. We love staying at, we stay at like the Marriott. It's a nice place, but we're not staying on Disney property, which is highly inflated. And we don't do the character breakfasts. Like we just kind of take that philosophy in everything we do, where it's like, live your life, enjoy your life, but also don't go above your means, stay within your means, don't go into debt over a vacation. Like, you don't want to put that financial stress on yourself. It's just going to cause you anxiety and, a hole that you have to dig out of. So it's definitely a fine balance between like spending your money, enjoying your life, but also having some accountability as well.
Yeah. And that leads us also, our lifestyle with money today is we both still work and we drive older cars, which nowadays it seems like buying a new car. I mean, if your car is like 2 years old, it's old, right?
Yeah,
Same
we
with
have
like
whatever our cars are. Your car's what, a
2008. I have a Mercury Milan.
And then the van is 2013?
No, my goodness, poor thing.
It's
2011.
2011. Okay, so it's 12 years. We drive cars that are 12 plus years old, but they're paid off because we have been blessed by some of my family's money. And so that was part of our wisdom, was like, let's get rid of this debt. Like, let's lower our monthly income so we don't have to make as much. So we paid off the cars and we've been driving them ever since. And they are a little janky, not gonna lie, but we don't care what we look like, right? It's about like, let's put our money in things that are important.
Yes. And so I know some people listen to us and go, oh, you go to Disney a bunch of that sounds insane. That's our goal. Our goal was for experiences and travel. So we will I'll sacrifice wearing, high-end clothing. I'll sacrifice driving the latest car, having the latest cell phone, because those aren't my goals. But if that's your goal, stick with it. That's great. And you can save the money that you would have spent on Disney, which I wouldn't blame you, honestly. And you can go out and buy, afford the latest lease payment or car payment, right?
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is like, using your skills that you have. So Cameron's dad did teach him how to take care of cars and work on cars. So like that's the way that we can sometimes we're in a pinch and we just don't have the time or energy to do it. We got to take it to the shop, but sometimes we'll do our own oil changes. Or if there's a fix that Cam thinks is manageable, he'll do it himself. Kind of we don't have cleaning people. I tried one time to hire a cleaning person.
We have time for the story.
A story for,
short story.
Gosh. I thought it was like a legit company. And again, I'm not ever going to say the names of these people because I am not trying to put people on blast at all, like ever. But they had 3 workers. They came in, everything seemed fine. And the one lady was like, all right, I got to run out. I'm out of microfiber towels. I'm going to run to the Lowe's, Home Depot.
Oh, and sorry to interrupt. Can I preface this is the fact that I was very against this cleaning because for me, again, growing up, I was like, I can clean my own house. I have the
Whereas
I don't want to spend the money on
I
it.
grew up with not maids, cleaning people that came every other week. So like we were just responsible for tidying. We didn't have to clean.
So now the listeners have the background of how we both are divided.
So
on this,
for most of our marriage, I have done the cleaning, or Cameron's helped. Like if he's slow on a job, he helps with I'm not going to take credit for all the cleaning in the house. You do help with the cleaning. But anyway, I was about to have Zoe and I just had that like insane nesting urge. Like I got to get this house deep cleaned. I need the oven cleaned. I need the floorboards. Everything has to be sparkling clean. I don't know why. It just happens when you're about to have a baby. So yeah, so this lady's like, all right, let me run to the Lowe's. I'm out of cloths. I'll be back. Long story short, I guess her story is that she ran out of gas. She was stopped on the side of Route 40. 2 guys stopped to quote unquote help her and tried to abduct her into their car. And she was able to fight and get away and call 911. The lady that was cleaning my house while she was out had to go pick her up because her car was out of gas, bring her back. So then like 5 cops roll up to my house because they need to get this lady's story about who these guys were, what they looked like, what car they were driving.
And weren't they like willing to finish cleaning the house? And we were kind of like, I think we're good.
Yeah. Well, the one guy was like still cleaning, but it was just the whole thing. I was like, we're good. Well, she was like, I can come back, all stuff. And I was like, no, like, let's just call it. Let's just call today. So like, I obviously
right?
never use them again. And now if I need a house cleaner, I have good referrals. Like I had just found someone on Facebook who I thought was like legit, but
the
anyway.
audience wants to know something. Have we had cleaners come in our house since?
No, and that was only a year and a half ago. Okay. Anyway, the reason I got on this whole tangent was because I was saying things that can be done yourself, like cleaning, saves us a couple $100 a month that we can put towards something else. It's the same thing with like private school. And with private school, we asked, we're like, hey, can we get a little bit of financial aid? They're like, here, sure, take, $1,000. I'm like, great, every little bit helps. But yeah, things that we can do ourselves, cooking, grocery shopping, all of those things, if we have the time and energy, we do it ourselves just to save a little bit of money.
Yeah, and speaking to the men out there, YouTube's amazing. You can type in how to fix this, how to fix that, and you can find a video and pretty much fix anything. So fortunately, I grew up kind of working on cars a little bit, and I work in construction and in home remodeling, so doing a lot of items around the house is pretty easy for me, so we are blessed there, and that's again another way we can kind of save money for our goals, which is taking care of our kids, putting them in private school, and adventures and trips, right?
Yep. Yeah, so we differ a little bit in our view of money from the world. I feel like the world really values storing your money and having a lot of living above your means, spending a lot of money, going into debt, having the latest models of things, staying on trend, which I love a good trend. But listen, if I'm ever wearing Lululemon, it's because my mom bought it because we just can't. Or it's like it was a Christmas gift and it was like a once a year kind of thing. But anything nice that I own. Thanks, Mom. But yeah, like that's what the world values. But we obviously differ from that in that we're not trying to store up a massive amount of money because again we know that tomorrow's not guaranteed, and if you didn't live your life and make memories with the people that you love, what's the point of having all this money? And then if you pass away, it's just, what are you going to do with it? It didn't even serve you.
Exactly. And this reminds me of a story in Luke 12, and it's a parable that Jesus is telling, and he's talking about this man that was rich, and he had these barns full of harvest or food. And what he decided to tear down those barns, build bigger barns, and store up even more food in those barns. And then his goal was to then, since he was basically rich, to just sit back, relax, and enjoy his later years. And basically, Jesus causes him a fool and rebukes him for doing that, and living that lifestyle of just wanting to kind of sit back, relax, and waste away. I'm a big believer, and if construction's taught me anything, that God designed us to work. Now, for a lot of us, we need to find something that we enjoy doing, we're somewhat passionate about. And so when you work and you enjoy what you're doing, and then the money comes along, it's a treasure. It's a blessing from the Lord. And also the curse of it all is having too much money. Mo money, mo problems, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a fine line and a balance. And so we differentiate from the world because just like this parable, yes, we have a rainy day fun, but I'm not going to lie, we don't have a huge nest egg waiting for us till the end. I mean, my plan as of now is to work till I physically can't anymore. And I think we're kind of both on that trend. And now, if God does bless us and we have retirement, we can do these things. I still want to be working. I still want to be involved. Maybe I can volunteer and just keep moving, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think also, too, the world tries to control us with money. So I feel like the world will be like, oh, work this job and do this for me. You will be blessed in the money, but then people working those jobs and doing those things, they're just so unhappy. It really affects their quality of life. And I think also the same thing with going into debt. I think it causes you, like in the back of your mind, you just, you feel like you owe something, right? Like you don't just feel like you can live your life freely. And so I think it's like the world's like, we'll sacrifice like your peace of mind and your mental health. Yeah. But we're gonna give you this big fat paycheck and you can treat yourself and you can do all of these things. But again, if you think about it, like if you're working 40 hours a week, it's a lot of time you're spending.
Nowadays people are laughing because they're saying 40 hours a week. I wish. I mean, they have 2 cell phones. You're constantly on call. As long as you have a phone on you, you're working, right?
Right.
And now with this introduction of working from home, these corporations technically kind of own you, right?
Yeah, because there have been times like when I told you to quit your corporate job because you were so depressed, like you were so miserable there. And I was like, the money's not worth it. Like, I don't want the money. I don't want the retirement. I would rather have you home with us and be happier and healthier. And we quit. And it was like, we've had times in our life where even just this recent season, we got hit with a really big tax bill we weren't expecting. It's like, we are tight on a budget. We are like doing everything we can to button up, slim down, live a little skimpy. But I would take that over you having a lot of money because we're working all the time, but we're not living a peaceful, enjoyable life. So it's like, I feel like the world sells us this message that more money is going to make you happier, going to make you more content, when in all reality, I feel like finding a job that you find purpose in, using your money wisely, treating yourself when you can. And, I feel like that just goes a longer way, and kind of what the perspective that we've subscribed to.
Hebrews 13:5 says, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. And how convicting is that? And also knowing that God is the ultimate provider. If he cares for the birds of the air, why will he not care for us? And I'm not going to lie and say I haven't mastered down. It's a constant reminder for me to go, God's going to provide. God's going to take care of us. All I have to do is wake up, work as hard as I physically can, and then sit back and just let God do his thing.
Yeah, and both of our line of work is a daily trust battle, because we have to actively book clients, and we don't, we know a couple months out, okay, yeah, we're going to have this job, but like sometimes you don't even know like next week what you're going to be doing. It's like a constant, like, do I trust God? Do I trust that he's going to provide? Do I trust that we're going to have enough money to pay the bills? And we've been stretched in that trust, but it's been good for us to release our control of money and realizing it's not our money. And
control.
Yeah, and also it just brings us back to God, saying like, no, I trust you, God. I know you're going to provide. Thank you. And then when he does provide, it's like, wow, like, what a good God you are. You showed up, and I'm not going to lie, I was doubting because the bank account was getting pretty slim and we didn't have jobs in the books.
If I had $1 for every time I doubted, I'd be a rich man.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good for us to be challenged in that, and it really helps us like realign our priorities and, come back to what we really value, in our life. So
yeah, so definitely we push, change your perspective of what you think about money to what God says about money. He's your provider. He's going to take care of you, and find a goal for yourself and in your marriage and or even just with a personal goal for yourself and what you want to do with your own money, and make it an achievable goal, make it something that's simple, that you have your value in. But this, I want to move on to our unpopular opinion. This should be a fun one. So I'm going to let Kira start this one out with her unpopular opinion with money.
Yeah, so when we got married, we decided that we were just going to do a joint account. So we merged all of our accounts. And again, like I don't think I had debt, but not to my own doing. It was just the blessing of my family and how hard they worked. So they were able to provide car, college, all that stuff. So I didn't have debt, but Cameron did, which was fine. Like I wasn't like, didn't lord it over him. Like it was, okay, we're married now. Like what's yours is mine, So we decided right away that we were just going to merge our accounts, and whatever he made was mine, whatever I made was his. There was transparency in our spending. I could see what he was spending. He could see what I was spending. We tried to keep it balanced of like, oh, you get $100 of free money and I get $100 of free money. But typically it ends up like Kira gets $200 of free money and Cameron gets $50 just because I love to spend money and be a little bit more on trend, which is something that I have to watch. But Cameron doesn't really care about like having the latest and the greatest. He can be, and it's the way he grew up. He can be content with what he has. And
don't judge me or my
I am
style.
constantly working on contentment and going in my closet and finding something that I already have that will work. But so we just decided right away, like, let's merge the accounts. What's mine is yours. We never say like, oh, well, you made more money this month, so you get to do this. Like it's a battle. Like sometimes mentally I have to, my hourly rate is, I'm very blessed with wedding photography. It's really good. So sometimes that messes with me because I'm like, oh, I can be a little bit more lax because, I made this amount of money doing this. When in all reality, I have to think like, okay, but we got to just look at the whole sum of paying our bills and providing for our family. So it's a little bit of a mental battle, but we do our best to keep the what's yours is mine mentality when it comes to our money.
Well, and I want to add to your unpopular opinion is how do we live in a world where this is going to sound pretty rough, but you can be in in a marriage where you have intimacy with each other, so you have all the vulnerabilities in the world, yet you can keep your money to yourself. So you'll share every other part of you, but the money gets set aside as if it's yours to keep. That one I'm just not getting. So send us your hate mail, your angry comments, and we're not against those that separate it. That wasn't for us. We felt like we wanted to be transparent. We wanted to build trust with each other. We wanted to be honest and have integrity on, how we live our lives and accountability on how we live our lives. And that shows through merging a bank account. So, are we ready for my unpopular opinion, which I don't know if the world is ready for this.
Yep, go for it.
So, my unpopular opinion about money is that the earning wage in this world is messed up. We live in a day and age where somebody can sit in front of a computer and make, $300K, benefits, healthcare, the whole 9 yards, and yet I know how to keep your lights turned on in your home. I know how to keep your plumbing running and all the essential things that you need, and I make pennies on the dollar. I mean, what in the world is wrong with our social structure?
Would you say that you work harder in construction or you worked harder at your corporate marketing sales job?
Yeah, so doing both, it's a night and day difference. The physical demand, and honestly, even the hours in doing construction. I have to plan the job. I have to then run out, prepare, get all the tools, run out to the hardware store, get all the materials, go to the job, do the actual labor, come home, send out all the estimates, respond to all the calls, text messages I've received, and then late in the evening, I'm sending out estimates. So it's a demanding job. It's draining physically, mentally, the whole 9 yards.
Right. Yet you make like a third of what you made doing.
And I make a third.
Right.
Because the world's basically the world just wants us all working for Amazon is what I believe in. But I am upset in the fact that the wages are just completely misconstrued. That we are treating builders, we are treating those we need the most.
Plumbers.
Yeah, plumbers, electrician, builders, and then you get an invoice for, that's going to cost $1,000. Well, that's ridiculous. While you can go get a surgery done and spend $50,000 and be like, that's a good deal.
Don't even get me started on lawyers. They type one email and they're like, that'll be $500. I'm like, homeboy, I type emails all day long. I don't get paid nothing for my emails. Like, why do you get paid for your emails?
And then of course sports and stuff, and the people go, well, yeah, it's entertainment, and I get the whole entertainment argument. But my whole point is that we're so misconstrued as a society from our earning wages and how we treat those that are doing manual labor. I was driving by yesterday and I saw this church building getting a new roof on it. It was the steepest roof I've ever seen, and I see this guy up there. He's got ropes attached to him. I'm like, I wouldn't climb that roof if my life depended on it. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, that guy's probably making about 15 an hour, while some Joe Schmo sitting at home, cranking out
even
hundreds.
When you work weddings, you're like, like the hourly wage compared to weddings, versus my construction job. It's just, and it's not that I don't just pull numbers out of my butt. I look at what other photographers are making. I look at experience. I look at the cost of living. I look at all the factors and I look at the industry standards, and then I come up with my numbers. So it's not just random, but even then it's to be a wedding photographer, the hourly rate is higher than a lot of jobs like plumbing, electrician, and all that stuff. And it's just, the ratio of how hard you work and how much you make in our society is just a little bit skewed.
Oh, and quick shout out talking about this discrepancy of wages. I mean, our gym instructors, they teach classes. We just found out what they make. Oh, how insulting. I mean, they do an amazing job. They put together a whole routine. They're planning at home, right? Or in their own free time. Then they come in, give us the workout of a lifetime, and make pennies on the dollar. And I can tell you this, the reason why I go to the gym is for those workouts. I wouldn't put a penny probably into that place if it wasn't for those workouts.
Well, and think about teachers too. Teachers are probably the most underpaid people out there. It's They are literally forming our next generation. They're pouring time, energy, love into these kids who need it, especially because
in today's society.
that's another
That's
topic
another
for
podcast, another day.
topic for another day. But and it's like they should be making $200,000 easily, and some of them are still at like 67. Like it's 60
probably
or 70.
even lower.
It's
Probably
insane.
starting
Yeah.
like 40,
Well, I know
50,
you
right?
start
Yeah.
you start at like 30 something, but I'm saying like even if you've been working like 5 years, okay, you're maybe up to like 60. I don't know. I've been out of teaching for a while, but the whole point of the story is teachers, you are underpaid, and we appreciate what you do.
Even in today's climate with the way kids are, if you said today you're going to pay me $200,000, I would seriously think whether it's worth it or not to be a teacher. So all those teachers out there, you're doing a heck of a job.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, but that is our episode for today. I hope you enjoyed it. All of our random thoughts and opinions about money. If you have anything to add to the conversation, feel free to hit me up over at Kira Nicole Photography on Instagram. We've been getting a little bit of feedback over there, and it's been really fun to chat with some of you guys. So we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Living Life with the Rogers with Cameron and Kira.
You can find us over on Instagram at Kira Nicole Photography. We post on there a lot, and if you want to hear future episodes, make sure you follow and subscribe. Catch you guys next time.